only thing we have to fear is
in war.
fear itself.
There is no substitute for victory.
Let us never negotiate out of fear.
We stand undivided, forever united, fighting hand in hand for the liberty we've earned, for glory and honor, for our sons and daughters, ever mindful of the lessons we've learned. Let the torch of freedom burn.
Welcome to the intersection of faith and politics. This is WallBuilders Live with David Barton and Rick Green. Thanks for joining us. Visit online at wallbuilders.com and wallbuilderslive.com. We're looking at things from both a biblical and a historical point of view. And you can get more of our programs there at wallbuilderslive.com in the archive section. Looking back several months, get those Good News Friday programs. If you need a good pick-me-up and find out some of the good things happening out there, Foundations of Freedom Thursday programs, lots of great stuff on our founding principles. So, David, one of the topics, obviously, over the last few years that's been huge is health care. I think a lot of folks maybe start buying into the whole socialized medicine thing and more government control because they begin to think there aren't good answers out there. There aren't ways to do this in a biblical way. They've never really thought about it that way.
You know, our friend Bob McEwen, Congressman McEwen, says if something's goofed up, look at government for it. So if you look at health care and there's not good solutions out there, it's because the government has already regulated those good solutions out of existence. So you don't need more government to come in and fix what the government's already goofed up. And that really is where we are with health care. As he points out, you don't have people complaining about their house insurance because anytime you want house insurance, you can go to somewhere else and get it cheaper. And so that's open market. But health insurance, they have regulated so much that you can't carry it around with you. You can't move it. You can't keep your kids on your plan. You can't have pre-existing stuff. Rather than letting the free market solve that, the government is so regulated, it's created all these problems. Now, it's created so many problems that it wants to solve it by creating socialized medicine. You know, that's nonsense. And by the way, anytime the word socialized appears with anything, it's not good. There's a section of the Founders Bible with Bible passages that deal with socialism and why that is not God's view, why the Bible is opposed to that, and that includes socialized medicine as well. So it's really interesting to get into it and see some of the details that we often don't get to hear about.
This would be a great time to hear Ronald Reagan's first inaugural address where he said government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem. It's created this mess. There's a new film coming out by Colin Gunn that addresses this, that looks at what has caused the problem, where will this go in the U.S. now that we've adopted Obamacare, and what are the market solutions to this. It's called Wait Till It's Free. Colin Gunn is our guest today. He'll be with us when we come back from the break. Stay with us right here on WallBuilders Live.
This is David Barton with another moment from America's history. Today, numerous court decisions demonstrate that there's often a conflict between the courts, the law, and religion. Has this conflict always existed? Not according to James Wilson. James Wilson was a signer of both the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. He was a law professor as well as an original justice on the U.S. Supreme Court. James Wilson saw no conflict between religion and the law. In fact, just the contrary. He declared, "Human law must rest its authority ultimately upon the authority of that law which is divine." Far from being rivals or enemies, religion and law are twin sisters, friends, and mutual assistants. Indeed, these two sciences run into each other. In the views of Founding Father James Wilson, religion and good civil law were inseparable.
For more information on God's hand in American history, contact WallBuilders at 1-800-8-REBUILD.
Let the torch of freedom burn.
Welcome back to the intersection of faith and politics. This is WallBuilders Live with David Barton and Rick Green. Thanks for staying with us today. Colin Gunn is our guest. We've had him on several times here on the program. Most recently, we had him on for Indoctrination. He's got a new documentary coming out. Colin, always good to have you, brother.
Great talking to you, Rick. Thank you for having me on your show.
Hey, so tell me what spurred on this new documentary and what you hope to accomplish with it.
Well, healthcare is such a big issue. It's going to affect every one of us, and certainly we're looking at the expansion of the government's control over healthcare. And it's not just Obamacare that we've seen that. We've actually seen 100 years of government intervention into the healthcare market with Medicare and Medicaid and all the other ideas, all the other interventions that were supposedly to make things cheaper or better. And, of course, what has been the consequence? We are heading down a path which is a dangerous path. And that path leads us towards socialized medicine. And that's essentially what our film is about, is warning people against socialized medicine by giving examples over here, but also going over to Europe. My home country of Scotland, of course, has socialized medicine, and we talk of the
wait. You mean
you
didn't get that accent from living in Texas the last few years?
Well, when I go over to Scotland, they laugh because they say I have an American accent now. So I have to put up with that. But yeah, I'm actually an American citizen now, and I'm proud to be an American. But I'm also very proud to be Scottish too. But Scottish people get it wrong. I love Scotland, but they make huge mistakes, and one of their huge mistakes is socialized medicine. And it's something they're very proud of. It's something they think is much better than it actually is, and we cover that in the film and show how bad socialized medicine is. It really is a disaster, particularly for the Christian and particularly for particular segments of our community, the unborn child, the elderly and the infirm. They are the primary victims of socialized medicine, and we really have a warning in our film. If you go down this path, be warned, it's a very dangerous path.
Wait Till It's Free is the name of it. If you think healthcare is unaffordable now, wait till it's free. And the website, WTIfree.com. Check it out there, WTIfree.com. Wait till it's free. And Colin, you said something very interesting right at the beginning there. You mentioned that this didn't start with Obamacare. We've been meddling in the market and government, slowly taking over this area of the market for 100 years. So this didn't just start a few years ago. That was the culmination here in America. But, man, it's been a long time coming.
Well, it's very sad because people have the perception that the problem in the American market is because we have a free market in healthcare as opposed to Canada and Europe. Of course, that is not true at all. We don't have capitalism at all. We don't have a free market. Any kind of capitalism is crony capitalism, which is the worst kind, where big business, the big pharmacy companies and big hospital and the AMA dictate really what goes on in healthcare. We really don't have a free market. Now, there's potential for a free market, and that's what we're drawing people back to. What is the solution for our health care crisis in America? Well, it's more liberty, bringing people back, and we give many examples in our film of doctors who don't take Medicare or Medicaid or even third-party insurance and have a model for just serving the consumer, that is the patient, with their health care needs. And there's an opportunity, and as bad as America is, with all that's gone on with Obamacare, there is a way out, and that is finding these liberty-oriented doctors, taking personal responsibility for our health, all those great things that actually America is very good at. We still have good news in this film, so it's not all just a downer about the mess that is Obamacare.
I love it. I mean, you got to point out the problem, but then you've got to give people hope and show them the solutions. I had not thought about it until you were just describing that. I've always thought of as government began to take over different areas of healthcare, I've always thought of it as skewing the market or causing friction in the market or disturbing the market, as Milton Friedman would have said. I think what you just said makes it. I see it a little different. It's more that government has been controlling the market. The crony capitalism is basically government controlling it through private entities. So it's really private entities using government to give them the power to control the market instead of letting market forces. Does that make any sense?
You're absolutely on the mark there. What happens is the big industry goes to Washington, and you've heard of the Iron Triangle, which is the influence of K Street on Washington politics, and they have a huge amount of influence over the actual legislation that's written in their favor. And that's what Obamacare is. Obama is a socialist, obviously, but he didn't really get a socialist ideology into Obamacare. It is to some extent, but what happened there was with the Obamacare law, it pushes people into insurance that they don't want to buy because it's not of particular value to them. It has forcing employers to to buy coverage and all these things that are actually more oriented towards the crony capitalist system rather than just socialism. The two are often connected. I hate using the term capitalism and crony capitalism because it's nothing to do with freedom or liberty of the economy. And so what we have is this privileged entity, which is the industry, the medical industry, and it's not everyone within that is involved in a conspiracy or anything like that. It's nothing like that. It's just the way we've decided to do health care. And there's a much better path. If we had true liberty, we would actually see what we want in healthcare. That is the reduction of price and price competition. And when we interviewed John Mackey, who's the CEO of Whole Foods and is somewhat of an expert in Austin on the issue of capitalism and free market, he talks about that in our film, and it's a very clear message and he actually said in the film, if we give liberty a chance, if we had a free market in healthcare, all of the problems with escalating costs of surgery and all the rest of it, all of the difficulty in affording insurance, all these things would go away if we had a genuine free market. And we could do it. That's the frustrating thing, and that's why we made this movie, is to push people towards a liberty view of what healthcare could be in America.
Got to take a quick break. We'll be back in a moment. Our guest is Colin Gunn. The new movie is Wait Till It's Free. The website is WTIFree.com. We'll have a quick link for you there at WallBuildersLive.com. As we go to break, I want to read a quote from you, Colin. It's great. You said, government intervention is the disease causing our healthcare crisis, and the only cure is freedom. I love it. Stay with us. Right back on WallBuilders Live.
This is David Barton with another moment from America's history. What is the purpose of government? Founding Father Oliver Ellsworth believed he knew. Oliver Ellsworth was a delegate at the convention which formed the Constitution, and later he became the Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court. Concerning the purpose of government, Oliver Ellsworth declared, the primary objects of government are the peace, order, and prosperity of society. Yet how were these goals to be achieved? Ellsworth explained, to the promotion of these objects, good morals are essential. Institutions for the promotion of good morals are therefore objects of legislative provision and support, and among these, religious institutions are eminently useful and important. Founding Father Oliver Ellsworth believed government could never reach its goals apart from the help of religious institutions.
For more information on God's hand in American history, contact WallBuilders at 1-800-8REBUILD.
Let the torch of freedom burn.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us here on WallBuilders Live. Colin Gunn is our guest. He's an award-winning documentarian, has put out several great films. This new one is called Wait Till It's Free. It takes on maybe one of the toughest issues of our day. And I say that, Colin, because honestly, conservatives have run from this issue for years, and honestly, I have. I mean, when I was in the legislature, if I had been appointed to the Health and Human Services Committee, I probably would have quit. I mean, I did not want to deal with these issues. It was just too much. It just wasn't something I cared about or was passionate about. It seemed like a black hole with no solutions. And I think conservatives have felt like that for a while and run from the issue, and Republicans don't take it head on, and the left loves it because they can take it over and their dreams come true. It's more government involvement, more government control of people's lives. So I thank you for taking this on and be willing to spend the last couple of years working on this project and interjecting free market solutions. That gets my attention and causes me to say, okay, maybe I can deal with this issue if I start thinking about the free market and how to solve these problems. So thanks for being willing to do that. How do we get more conservatives and people that care about the country to deal with a tough issue like this?
Well, I'm encouraging people to watch our film, and our film is an entertaining look at the healthcare market. We really want, when we make documentaries, we really want to inform you, but we make them so that they're not boring, and we cover it by talking about real stories. It's not just punditry when we get to this subject. The issue of healthcare has so much to do with your life. In fact, it could have everything to do with the end of your life, which is one of the key aspects of our film. In the film, we talk about socialized medicine. And, of course, when you talk about cradle-to-grave welfare, well, the point in our film is that if the government controls cradle-to-grave healthcare, then they actually are in control of when that death part, that grave part might happen to you. So we have a big concern about the control of life in our country. When it begins, of course, as a crisis point with the issue over the unborn child and the Holocaust there. But think of our elderly and think of the baby boom generation that are heading towards these assumed entitlements that are not going to be able to be paid. And what is going to happen? Well, the sad news is what's going to happen here has happened in Europe under the National Health Service. You had a program called the Liverpool Care Pathway, which was nothing other than involuntary euthanasia, which is a disaster, moral disaster, where we take our elderly and pretty much just drug them and starve them to death. And that happened to the hundreds of thousands of people in Britain. And so this is the people that love Obamacare and designed Obamacare over here are all citing the British National Health Service as the example, as the design for their policy making here. So the crisis is coming. It's already starting right now at a small level with people losing their insurance and all the rest of it through Obamacare. But it's only going to get worse, and it's going to be worse for the Christians in this country. We need to be aware of this crisis now.
That end of life issue that you just brought up, I mean, that was something that, I remember Sarah Palin and others talking about the death panels and the things that would come as a result of this. And man, I mean, the media just skewered them over. It's that's not true, blah, blah, blah. But it is. I mean, you have to go that direction in order to implement socialist medicine.
Absolutely. So the Independent Payment Advisory Board is a part of Obamacare. Of course, it's not called the death panel, but it will have the same effect. The government, when it rations care, which it has to do, rationing in my mind is actually a good thing, but I think that you and I personally should be involved in the rationing of our wealth. We have our own priorities, but what happens when a third party, or particularly the government rations, is it rations in its own favor. So you're over in England, you can get a sex change for free on the NHS. There's actually a story of people that get sex change reversals on the NHS, so they change their mind. That's paid for, costs hundreds of thousands of dollars, but you're waiting in line for a knee replacement. You could be expecting a heart valve replacement and not get it because the government's decided you're too old to get it, and that's what we're going to get here. It's already gone down that path with Obamacare, but the revelation in our film is that Obamacare is not the end goal. The end goal is single payer, and we have back-to-back quotes of all the leading Democrats saying we wanted single payer. That is their goal, and that is where we're going to go, particularly with Hillary, but also that is the agenda behind all of Obamacare. And if Obamacare fails, don't think that's a conservative victory, because they're going to come up with the next step, which is their real game plan, and that is pushing for single payer.
Oh, yeah, it's almost like they're sabotaging their own system so that they can say, well, the only way this will work is if we go to single payer. But you just said something else that my friend Tim Dunn says the real question is who decides, and it's like that with any policy that we're dealing with, any issue that we're talking about with government, especially when it comes to healthcare. Who decides? And what you're saying is let the individual decide, let the market decide, let the doctor and the individual together come to terms and make that decision instead of some third party bureaucrat that has no skin in the game.
Well, they will make their decisions. If you look at the government, they always make their decisions based on their own political interests. And, of course, when it comes to health care, that's the very worst thing for you, especially if you're not a big contributing taxpayer, which is most of the elderly in this country. You're going to be in a circumstance where you're actually last on the list of people's priorities, which is the reverse of the Christian perspective, where who's first on our list of our priorities? Well, it's our wives and our kids and our grandparents. They're the ones that we want to really look after, and that's the Bible tells us, look after these people, the widows and the orphans, those that are really in need. Of course, the widows and the orphans have got no political leverage, and so what you're going to see with Obamacare and all the rest of it, the Independent Payment Advisory Boards, is they're going to start rationing care radically, and people are going to really suffer, and they need to know about it now so that they can make a plan. So retaining their medical liberty, whether Obamacare happens or not, or progresses or not, my argument in the film is we can't really fix these things, so we have to do what we did with homeschooling, and that is go around them, prepare our own alternative. healthcare system like we prepared our own alternative schools through homeschooling and private schooling. We need to do that with healthcare right now so that we're prepared when all of that rationing happens.
I love the way you think, brother. I appreciate the optimism and the strategy and thinking long-term, thinking generationally. I mean, one of the things I love about what you do in your films, Dinesh did the same thing with America. He points out all these things, but then he gives you an optimistic, hopeful, steps to take towards the end. You do the same thing, and this is one of those issues where I think a lot of folks have felt like there was no hope and there was no way to solve the problem. So thanks for tackling it and giving us a way to fix this system that is very broken and to fight these things. The website and I guess at this is it you can watch it online or get the DVD, right?
Yeah, you can get the DVD. We're encouraging people to host screenings. You can just show it in your church. There's no license fee. Just get the film, show it in your church. If I'm nearby, I'll come and visit and host as well if you want. So this is a good opportunity for people that don't know about this issue, want to learn about it, and want to inform their neighbors about this important issue. We encourage them just to host a screening and let people see it.
All of that at WTIFree.com, WTIFree.com. It's called Wait Till It's Free. If you think healthcare is unaffordable now, wait till it's free. Colin Gunn, appreciate you, brother. Thanks for coming on, sir.
Thank you. It's great to talk to you.
Back in a moment with David Barton. Have you ever wanted to learn more about the United States Constitution but just felt like, man, the classes are boring, or it's just that old language from 200 years ago, or I don't know where to start? People want to know, but it gets frustrating because you don't know where to look for truth about the Constitution either. Well, we've got a special program for you available now called Constitution Alive with David Barton and Rick Green, and it's actually a teaching done on the Constitution at Independence Hall in the very room where the Constitution was framed. We take you both to Philadelphia, the cradle of liberty and Independence Hall, and to the WallBuilders Library, where David Barton brings the history to life to teach the original intent of our founding fathers. We call it the Quick Start Guide to the Constitution because in just a few hours through these videos, you will learn the Citizen's Guide to America's Constitution. You'll learn what you need to do to help save our constitutional republic. It's fun, it's entertaining, and it's going to inspire you to do your part to preserve freedom for future generations. It's called Constitution Alive with David Barton and Rick Green. You can find out more information on our website now at WallBuilders.com.
Let the torch of freedom burn.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us here on WallBuilders Live. Thanks to Colin Gunn. Check out his new movie, Wait Till It's Free. David, this is, well, it's like that with any government program, right? When they tell us how cheap it's going to be and how it's going to make everything less expensive, it, without fail, becomes more expensive and harder to get.
It is, and it's socialized medicine is brought, the real problem is the word socialized. Socialized anything. Socialized education, socialized healthcare, socialized government, socialized anything is going to be bad, it's going to be more expensive. And the whole concept of the socialized medicine is just one of many. But I was thinking about that as listening to Colin. And by the way, I love the fact that he has an American accent. I mean, that is really good.
No, it's a Texas accent.
It's a Texas accent.
Via Scotland.
I love that, man. That sounds just like every Texan I've ever heard.
Yeah.
It's cool. Go back home and get chewed up for having a wrong accent. I love it. That's fun. But you go back to this, and I was looking at this concept. The biggest problem with socialism, whether socialized medicine or anything else, is that it eliminates the individual. It goes for collectivism. You're not yourself. You're part of some group, and you get treated on the basis of the group, not on the basis of yourself. And so that's what happens with medicine. We don't have a plan for you. We have a plan for the group of which you're part. And we're not going to treat you individually. You're a senior, and so we have to see how we're going to treat seniors in general. And we're only allotting seniors so many hip replacements, and we've already used that amount, so you don't get your hip replaced. And so what happens is when you're part of a group, you lose the individual focus, and that happens in education. When we were writing this new book we've got out called U-Turn, George Barn and I co-authored this book that's out nationally. One of the things that just absolutely shocked me was education. I thought I knew how bad education was in many areas. And we have socialized education now. We do not look at the individual student. We look at the class they're in. When we had one-room schoolhouses, we looked at individual students. So you had one teacher the same day teaching 3rd grade math, 8th grade math at the same time to kids because you taught to each kid, not to the class. Well, now we have to deal with the class. And I was looking at what the result has been. And when you're having to deal with a class, you have to take a common denominator. And so if you have kids in the class that really can't perform, you have to try to include them in what you're doing. So you have to shoot down toward the middle, which really hurts your kids that are faster. And it doesn't help the rest of the kids. So you keep having to lower the standard. But here's the thing that struck me. We spent $140,000 for a kid to go from K through 12. That's the average. Graduating out right now after 12 years of school, 19% of our kids, 1 out of 5, are completely illiterate. They cannot read. We're putting $140,000 and they can't read. So if you've got a class full of 19% of your kids, 1 out of 5 that can't read, what are you going to have to do? Well, you're going to have to do exactly what Common Core does. You're going to have to lower the standards. We can't have you read things like Mark Twain and the Red Badge of Courage. You need to read things like the President's Executive Orders because that's American literature. Really? That's because you're having to deal with law. So the whole problem with socialized medicine is that you stop being treated like an individual. The whole problem with socialized education is you're not an individual. The whole problem with socialized government, you're part of a group. You're not an individual. You don't have individual rights. You have group rights. And that's the wrong direction every single time. And I really appreciated the boldness that Colin had with speaking out, not only this, but just talking about things in general, the life issue and so many other things. He just got the right worldview all the way across this.
And the optimism,
And the optimism, that's right.
That Ronald Reagan, happy warriors out to seize back a country to freedom. That's we got to have that joy.
Yeah, and he had that joy, and I love the fact that he's an American citizen because maybe he can teach the rest of us some of the things that we didn't get in our own schools.
No doubt, no doubt. Great stuff. Thanks for joining us today, folks. Thanks to Colin Gunn for being our guest. You've been listening to WallBuilders Live.
We stand under